There's a special kind of desperation that comes with the holidays. Not the kind that makes you brave, but the kind that makes you reckless. Sophia knew that desperation well. She'd been carrying it for weeks, feeling it grow heavier with each passing day as Christmas approached, as her family's questions became more pointed, as her sister's wedding loomed closer. And on a cold December evening, standing outside an upscale restaurant in the heart of the city, that desperation finally made her do something she would never have imagined possible. She asked a complete stranger to be her fake date. If this story touches your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Comment where you're listening from, and if you feel it was really worth it, consider becoming a member to get early access to upcoming stories. Your support makes all the difference. The restaurant's windows glowed with warm golden light, casting long shadows across the snow-dusted sidewalk. Inside, Sophia could see her family already gathered around a large table, her mother's perfectly coiffed hair catching the candlelight, her father's broad shoulders in his navy suit, her sister Emma radiant in red, and beside Emma, her fiancé Marcus, with his easy smile and confident posture. And there, surely, would be the questions. Where's your boyfriend, Sophia? Still single? You know, Marcus has a cousin. At 28, Sophia had learned that being single wasn't actually the problem. The problem was being single at family gatherings, being single when everyone else had someone, being single when your younger sister was getting married in 3 weeks, and you were the maid of honor who'd show up alone. Again. She'd tried explaining that she was focused on her career, that she was happy, that she didn't need a relationship to feel complete. All true. But her family heard those words as temporary conditions, problems to be solved, gaps to be filled. Her phone buzzed. Emma's text read, "Where are you?" "Mom's asking." Sophia took a deep breath, the cold air burning her lungs. She could go in there alone. She'd done it before. She could smile through the pitying looks, deflect the invasive questions, ignore the way her mother's friends would pat her hand sympathetically. Or she could turn around, get in her car, drive home, and spend Christmas Eve alone with a bottle of wine and her guilt. Neither option felt bearable. That's when she saw him. He was standing about 20 feet away, partially hidden in the shadow of the building's stone corner, and he was alone. Even in the dim light, Sophia could tell he was striking. Tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair swept back from a face that looked like it had been carved from marble. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, and eyes that even from this distance seemed to see everything. He wore a black wool coat that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and he stood with the kind of stillness that suggested he was perfectly comfortable with solitude. He was looking at his phone, his expression unreadable, and something about his self-contained presence made Sophia's desperate mind form a crazy idea. Before she could think it through, before logic could intervene, she was walking toward him. Her heels clicked on the concrete, each step feeling both too fast and too slow. He looked up when she was about 10 feet away, and his eyes, God, his eyes were the color of dark espresso, intense and guarded. Up close, he was even more devastating, the kind of handsome that made you forget how to breathe properly. There was something dangerous about him, something that whispered warnings her desperation chose to ignore. "Excuse me," Sophia said, her voice coming out steadier than she felt. "I know this is going to sound absolutely insane, but I need to ask you something." He didn't respond immediately, just studied her with those penetrating eyes, taking in her emerald green dress, her carefully styled dark hair, the slight tremor in her hands that she couldn't quite hide. When he finally spoke, his voice was deep, textured, like aged whiskey, with an edge that suggested he wasn't used to being approached. "I'm listening." Sophia swallowed hard. This was insane. This was beyond insane. But she was here now. and her family was inside, and she couldn't turn back. I need a date for a family dinner. Right now, just for a couple of hours. I know how this sounds. I know you don't know me. But I'm desperate, and you're here, and you're alone, and I just... She stopped, realizing she was rambling. Please, I'll pay you. I'll give you whatever you want. Just please, pretend to be my boyfriend for 2 hours. The silence that followed felt eternal. He didn't laugh, didn't walk away, didn't call her crazy. He just looked at her with an expression she couldn't read, something flickering in those dark eyes that might have been amusement or might have been something far more complex. You want me, he said slowly, to pretend to be your boyfriend. Yes. For your family dinner. Yes. Starting right now. Yes, Sophia confirmed, her heart pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. I know it's weird. I know it's inappropriate. I know you probably think I'm insane. But I'm the maid of honor at my little sister's wedding, and I'm tired of being the sad, single one. And my mom keeps trying to set me up with her friend's sons, and I just need one night where I'm not the project everyone's trying to fix. The words tumbled out in a rush, honest and raw in a way she hadn't intended. He tilted his head slightly, still studying her. What's your name? Sophia. Sophia Reyes. And you think I look like boyfriend material, Sophia Reyes? You look like you can hold a conversation, and you're wearing a suit under that coat, so you won't look out of place. And frankly, you're extremely attractive, which will make the whole thing more believable, Sophia said, her desperation overriding her usual filter. Plus, you were standing here alone, so I'm assuming you're not busy. Something in his expression shifted, just barely. A slight curve at the corner of his mouth that might have been a smile. You're right. I'm not busy. So you'll do it? Sophia asked, hope flaring in her chest. He was quiet for another moment. Then he stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and dark with notes of cedar and smoke. Before I agree, he said, his voice dropping lower. You should know something about me. Sophia's pulse quickened. Okay, I don't do things halfway. If I'm going to be your boyfriend for the evening, I'm going to be convincing. That means I'll touch you. I'll hold your hand. I'll put my arm around you. I'll act like you belong to me. Can you handle that? The way he said belong sent a shiver down her spine that had nothing to do with the cold. Yes, Sophia whispered. Good. He extended his hand. Dante. Just Dante? Just Dante. His hand was warm, strong, and when Sophia placed hers in it, she felt a jolt of electricity that made her breath catch. His fingers closed around hers with a confidence that suggested he was a man used to taking control. Shall we? Dante asked, gesturing toward the restaurant. Sophia nodded, suddenly very aware that she'd just invited a complete stranger into her family dinner. A stranger who looked like he could be dangerous, who carried himself with an authority that was both attractive and slightly terrifying. But it was too late to back out now. As they walked toward the entrance, Dante kept her hand in his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that felt far too intimate for two people who'd met 5 minutes ago. Wait, he said, stopping just before the door. Tell me about them. Your family. Sophia blinked. What? If I'm going to be convincing, I need details. Quick version. Okay. My parents are Maria and Roberto. Dad's a contractor. Mom's a retired teacher, who now thinks her job is managing everyone's life. My sister Emma is 25, getting married to Marcus, who's a financial analyst. They're nauseatingly perfect together. And you're the older sister who can't seem to get it together, Dante said. But there was no judgment in his voice, just observation. That's what they think, Sophia admitted. What do you actually do? I'm a graphic designer. I run my own small studio. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. Dante's eyes held hers. That's what you lead with. Not apologies, not self-deprecation. You're a business owner. You're successful. You're independent. And you're with me now, which means you're doing just fine. The way he said it, with such certainty, made Sophia almost believe it. How long have we been dating? Dante asked. 3 months, Sophia said quickly. Long enough to bring you to family dinner, but not so long that they'd wonder why they haven't heard about you. Where did we meet? At a coffee shop. No, wait, that's too boring. At an art gallery. I was there for work. You were there for... She paused, realizing she knew nothing about him. I collect art, Dante supplied smoothly. We started talking about a piece, discovered we had similar taste, and I asked you to dinner. You said no the first time. I'm persistent. Sophia felt her cheeks warm. That's actually a good story. It's believable because it's partly true, Dante said. I do collect art, and I am persistent. He reached up, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture so natural, so intimate, that Sophia forgot for a moment this was all pretend. Ready? He asked. No, Sophia admitted. Good, Dante said, and she could swear she saw real amusement in his eyes now. The best performances come from nervous energy. Just follow my lead. He opened the door, and warm air rushed out along with the sound of conversation and clinking glasses. Sophia's family looked up as they approached, and she watched her mother's eyes widen, watched Emma's jaw literally drop, watched her father's expression shift from concern to surprise to assessment. Sophia, her mother said, standing up, her voice carrying that particular tone that meant she was both delighted and desperate for information. You're here, and you brought someone. Everyone, Sophia said, her voice surprisingly steady with Dante's hand, warm against the small of her back. This is Dante, my boyfriend. The word felt strange on her tongue, but Dante stepped forward smoothly, extending his hand to her father first. Mr. Reyes, it's a pleasure to meet you. Sophia speaks very highly of you. Her father shook his hand, and Sophia saw something pass between them, some masculine assessment that she couldn't quite read. Roberto Reyes. And you are? Dante Caruso. Sophia watched her father's expression change, subtle but definite. A flicker of recognition followed quickly by something that looked almost like concern. The name clearly meant something to him, though Sophia had no idea what. I've heard that name, her father said carefully. You're in business? Various enterprises, Dante replied smoothly. Real estate primarily. Import-export. I keep a relatively low profile. Her mother had moved closer now, her eyes taking in every detail of Dante's expensive coat, his perfectly tailored suit, the watch on his wrist that probably cost more than Sophia's car. It's so wonderful to finally meet you, she said, though her smile was tight. Sophia hasn't mentioned you. We've been keeping things quiet, Dante said, his hand sliding around Sophia's waist, pulling her closer against his side. Sophia values her privacy. I respect that. But she insisted I come tonight. Said it was time I met the people who matter most to her. He looked down at Sophia with such warmth, such apparent affection, that she almost forgot it was an act. Her sister Emma was staring openly, clearly trying to process how her perpetually single sister had landed someone who looked like he'd stepped out of a luxury magazine. Marcus, Emma's fiancé, stood up to shake Dante's hand, and Sophia saw him wince slightly at Dante's grip. This is unexpected, Emma said, her voice carrying a hint of something between admiration and suspicion. Sophia, you didn't say anything. It's new, Sophia managed, hyper-aware of Dante's hand on her waist, the heat of his body against hers. We wanted to be sure before making it public. And are you sure now? Her mother asked, that dangerous sweetness in her voice that meant she was fishing for information. Dante's response was to pull Sophia even closer, his lips brushing against her temple in a gesture so tender, so possessive, that Sophia felt her knees weaken. "I'm very sure," he said quietly, but his voice carried to the whole table. "Your daughter is remarkable." They sat down, Dante pulling out Sophia's chair before taking his own beside her. Under the table, his hand found her knee, a warm, steady presence that somehow made her feel both nervous and safe. The waiter came by for drink orders, and Dante ordered a bottle of wine that made her father's eyebrows rise. Throughout the meal, Dante played his role flawlessly. He asked her parents about their work, complimented Emma on her wedding plans, discussed market trends with Marcus in a way that made it clear he understood finance at a level that impressed even her analytical future brother-in-law. But more than that, he touched Sophia constantly. His hand on her back, his fingers brushing her arm, his knee pressed against hers under the table. Each touch felt deliberate, possessive, real. "So Dante," her mother said during the main course, her tone deceptively casual, "what are your intentions with our Sophia?" "Mom," Sophia protested, feeling her face flush. "It's a fair question," Dante said calmly. He turned to look at Sophia, and the intensity in his eyes made her forget to breathe. "My intentions are to make her happy, to support her work, to be the partner she deserves." He paused, his thumb tracing circles on the back of her hand. "Sophia is extraordinary at what she does. She's built something real, something that matters. I admire that. I admire her." The words sounded so sincere that Sophia almost believed them herself. Her mother looked mollified, though her eyes remained sharp, still searching for cracks in the story. "And your family?" her father asked. "What do they do?" Dante's expression barely changed, but Sophia felt the tension in his body. "My father passed away several years ago. My mother lives in Italy. I have 2 brothers who help run the family businesses." "I'm sorry about your father," Sophia's mother said, her voice softening slightly. "Thank you," Dante replied. "He taught me everything about loyalty, about protecting what matters." Sophia felt him squeeze her hand. "Those lessons have served me well." There was something in the way he said, "protecting," that made Sophia think he wasn't just talking about business. Her father was watching Dante with an expression Sophia couldn't quite read, something between respect and wariness. Emma, unable to contain herself any longer, leaned forward with a bright smile. "So how did he ask you? Out, Sophia?" "We want details." Sophia opened her mouth, but Dante spoke first. She tried to say no, he said, a slight smile playing at his lips. "We were at a gallery, looking at the same painting, a Caravaggio reproduction. Very dark, very dramatic. I made a comment about the use of shadow, and she corrected me, told me I was wrong about the artist's intention." Sophia blinked. She had no memory of them agreeing on this story. But Dante continued smoothly. "I was intrigued. Beautiful woman who wasn't afraid to tell me I was wrong. I had to know more. So I asked her to dinner. She said she was busy. I asked for coffee. She said she didn't drink coffee. Lie, by the way. I've seen her consume an entire pot." Sophia felt herself smiling despite the absurdity of the situation. Dante's hand moved to her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "I asked for her number." "She gave me a fake one?" Emma gasped. "You didn't." "I did," Sophia heard herself say, getting into the story. "I thought he was too smooth, too confident, probably had a girlfriend. So I gave him the number to a pizza place." Dante's laugh was low, genuine. I called it that night. Spent 10 minutes trying to figure out why Sophia's voicemail was asking if I wanted extra cheese. The whole table laughed, even her father. "And you still pursued her?" Marcus asked, clearly entertained. "Of course," Dante said simply. "When you meet someone who challenges you, who doesn't fall at your feet, who makes you work for it, you don't give up. You prove you're worth their time." He looked at Sophia with such intensity that she forgot they were surrounded by people. So I showed up at her studio the next day with coffee and apology. I told her I understood if she wasn't interested, but I'd regret it forever if I didn't try one more time. Her mother's hand went to her chest, clearly charmed. "And what did you say, Sophia?" Sophia found herself lost in Dante's dark eyes, in the warmth she saw there that didn't feel entirely fake. "I said yes," she whispered. "Best decision I ever made," Dante murmured. And then, before Sophia could process what was happening, he leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a long kiss, wasn't inappropriate for the family dinner setting, but it was enough. His lips were warm, firm, sure. He tasted like red wine, and something darker, something that made Sophia's head spin. When he pulled back, his hand cupped her face for just a moment longer, his thumb brushing her jaw, and Sophia saw something flicker in his eyes that looked almost like regret. The table had gone quiet, everyone watching them with various expressions of surprise, approval, and in Emma's case, barely contained squealing. "Well," her father said finally, clearing his throat, "you certainly seem devoted." "I am," Dante said, his attention still on Sophia. "More than you know." The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. Dante continued to be charming, attentive, perfect. He laughed at her father's jokes, asked Emma about wedding flowers, complimented her mother's choice of restaurant. And through it all, he touched Sophia, held her, looked at her like she was the only person in the room. By the time dessert arrived, Sophia had almost forgotten this was fake. Almost forgotten that 2 hours ago, Dante had been a stranger. Almost forgotten that when the night ended, she'd never see him again. That thought caused an unexpected ache in her chest. "You okay?" Dante murmured, his lips close to her ear. His breath was warm against her skin, sending shivers down her spine. "Yeah," Sophia whispered back, just realizing this is going to end. His hand tightened on hers under the table, but he didn't respond. After dessert and coffee, after her mother had extracted promises for future dinners, and Emma had pulled Sophia aside to demand every detail later, they finally said their goodbyes. Her father shook Dante's hand again, holding it a moment longer than necessary. "Take care of her," he said. And there was weight in those words, an understanding that Sophia didn't fully grasp. "Always," Dante replied. Outside, the snow had started falling, soft white flakes drifting down through the golden streetlight. Sophia wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold now that they were away from the warmth of the restaurant and the performance. "You were incredible," she said, turning to face Dante. "Thank you. I don't know how to repay you." "You said you'd pay me whatever I wanted," Dante reminded her, but his tone was lighter than before, almost playful. "Right," Sophia said, reaching for her purse. "How much?" "I don't want your money, Sophia. Then what do you want?" The question hung in the cold air between them. Dante stepped closer, close enough that Sophia had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Snowflakes caught in his dark hair, on his shoulders, melting against the warmth of his skin. "Have dinner with me," he said. "A real dinner, not a performance. Just you and me." Sophia's heart stuttered. "Why?" "Because I want to know if the woman who gave me a fake number and called me too smooth is as interesting as I think she is. Because you made me laugh for the first time in months. Because when I kissed you in there, it didn't feel like acting." The honesty in his voice made Sophia's breath catch. "I don't even know you," she said. But even as she spoke, she knew it was a weak protest. "You know I collect art. I'm persistent. I make up convincing stories on the spot. And I'm very good at pretending to be your boyfriend," Dante said, that slight smile returning. "What else do you need to know?" Sophia knew she should say no, should thank him again and walk away, should go back to her safe, uncomplicated life. But standing there in the falling snow, looking up at this beautiful, mysterious man who'd appeared exactly when she needed him, who'd played his role so perfectly that her family was convinced, who'd made her feel things she hadn't felt in years. She found she didn't want to. Okay, she heard herself say. One dinner. Real dinner. Dante's smile widened, transforming his face from dangerously handsome to absolutely devastating. Tomorrow night? Tomorrow's Christmas Eve. I know. Spend it with me. There was something in the way he asked, a vulnerability beneath the confidence that made Sophia realize he might be as surprised by this connection as she was. Okay, Sophia said again. Tomorrow. He pulled out his phone. Real number this time. Sophia laughed, a genuine sound that surprised her, and typed her number into his phone. When she handed it back, he immediately called it, and her phone buzzed in her purse. Now you have mine too, he said, in case you need a fake boyfriend again, or a real date. I think I'm good on fake boyfriends, Sophia said, but I might need that real date. Dante stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup her face. The gesture was tender, careful, and Sophia found herself leaning into his touch. Can I kiss you again? He asked, his voice low. For real this time. Sophia's answer was to close the distance between them. This kiss was different from the one in the restaurant. That had been for show, carefully calibrated for family viewing. This was private, real, searching. Dante's hand slid into her hair, tilting her head to deepen the kiss, and Sophia felt her knees weaken. She grabbed his coat for balance, pulling him closer, and he made a low sound in his throat that sent heat coursing through her body. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. Tomorrow, he said, his voice rough. I'll pick you up at 7. Okay. And Sophia? Yeah? Thank you for being desperate enough to ask a stranger for help. It made my night considerably more interesting. Sophia laughed, slightly breathless. Thank you for saying yes. It made my night considerably less terrible. Dante stepped back, but his hand lingered on her face for a moment longer. Get home safe. You too. She watched him walk away, disappearing into the falling snow, and only then did she realize she still didn't know his last name beyond Caruso, didn't know what he really did for a living, beyond vague mentions of real estate and import-export, didn't know why her father had reacted to his name with such recognition. But as she drove home through the snowy streets, her lips still tingling from his kiss, Sophia found she didn't care. For the first time in months, maybe years, she felt alive, felt wanted. Felt like maybe, just maybe, something extraordinary had walked into her life disguised as desperation. Her phone buzzed as she pulled into her apartment parking lot. A text from an unknown number, though she knew exactly who it was. Made it home. Already counting the hours until tomorrow. Sleep well, Sophia. She saved his number under Dante, staring at it for a long moment before responding. You too. And Dante? Tonight was perfect. Thank you. His response came immediately. It was just the beginning. Sophia fell asleep that night with a smile on her face, snow falling outside her window, and the taste of possibility on her lips. She had no idea that the man she'd asked to be her fake boyfriend was Dante Caruso, the heir to the most powerful crime family in the city. She had no idea that her father's recognition had been fear thinly veiled as respect. She had no idea that Dante's world was built on violence, loyalty, and codes she couldn't begin to understand. And she had absolutely no idea that by tomorrow night, everything would change. But for now, in the soft quiet of Christmas Eve approaching, Sophia simply felt happy. And that, she thought, as sleep claimed her, was enough. Dante Caruso sat in the back of his black Mercedes, watching snowflakes catch the streetlights, and tried to remember the last time he'd felt this unsettled. The car idled 3 blocks from Sophia's apartment building, far enough that she wouldn't see him, close enough that he could still protect her if needed. Old habits died hard. Marco, his driver and oldest friend, watched him in the rearview mirror with barely concealed amusement. "You're really going through with this?" Marco asked. "With what?" "The date. With the girl who has no idea who you are." Dante's jaw tightened. "She has a name. Sophia. And yes, I'm going through with it." Marco shook his head. "Boss, with respect, this is insane. You can't date a civilian. Your father would have lost his mind." "My father is dead," Dante said coldly, "and I'll date whoever I want. She asked you to be her fake boyfriend and you said yes. That's not like you. That's not strategic. That's just," Marco gestured vaguely, "human." Dante didn't respond because Marco was right. When Sophia had approached him outside that restaurant, desperate and beautiful and completely unaware of who he was, he should have walked away. Should have made an excuse. Should have protected her from his world by keeping her out of it entirely. But there had been something in her eyes, in the way she'd looked at him like he was just a man, not the heir to a criminal empire, not someone to fear or revere or use, just someone who might help her. No one had looked at Dante like that in years, and when she'd started rambling about her family, about being tired of being the project everyone wanted to fix, he'd seen himself in her. Different circumstances, different struggles, but that same bone-deep exhaustion of never being enough, of always being measured against impossible standards. So he'd said yes, had walked into that restaurant knowing it was reckless, knowing it complicated things, knowing his brothers would have his head if they found out. And then he'd spent 2 hours playing the role of devoted boyfriend and realizing, with growing alarm, that he wasn't entirely playing. The way Sophia had fit against his side, the sound of her laugh, the taste of her lips when he'd kissed her, all of it had felt more real than anything in his carefully constructed life. "She Googles you. You know what she'll find," Marco said quietly, pulling Dante from his thoughts. "I know. Articles about your family, your father's reputation, the rumors about what you really do." "I know," Dante repeated. "She'll run. Most people do when they learn the truth." Dante stared out at the falling snow. Maybe. Or maybe she's different. Maybe she'll understand. "You don't really believe that," Marco said, not unkindly. "No one understands our world unless they're born into it. And even then, most want out." Dante thought about his mother, living in Italy, who'd left the moment his father died. Thought about the women who'd tried to get close to him over the years, drawn to power and money but terrified of the reality. Thought about his younger brother Luca's girlfriend, who'd lasted exactly 3 weeks after witnessing a business meeting before disappearing without a word. Marco was right. Civilians didn't survive in his world. They either ran or they broke. But something stubborn in Dante refused to accept that Sophia would be like the others. "Tomorrow," he said finally. "I'll tell her tomorrow. After dinner. She deserves one normal evening before everything changes. If she still wants you after," Marco said, "I'll be shocked." Dante's phone buzzed. A text from his older brother, Alessandro. "Where are you? We have a situation." Dante sighed, his world calling him back, reminding him that he didn't get to have normal evenings and pretty girlfriends and family dinners. He had responsibilities, territory to protect, enemies to watch, a legacy of violence and loyalty that he'd been born into and could never escape. But for one more day, he wanted to pretend, wanted to be just Dante, the man who collected art and made Sophia smile, not Dante Caruso, the man whose name made grown men nervous. "Take me to the warehouse," he told Marco. "Business first. Always business first." The rest of Sophia's Christmas Eve was blissfully ordinary. She worked on a design project, wrapped presents for Emma's wedding, ignored her mother's 12 texts asking for more details about Dante, and tried not to check her phone every 5 minutes to see if he'd texted again. He did, around 3 in the afternoon. A photo of a painting, dark and dramatic, unmistakably Caravaggio. Saw this and thought of you. Still think I'm wrong about the use of shadow? Sophia smiled, remembering the fake story he'd told her family, and typed back, "Absolutely. You have terrible taste." His response was immediate. "Then it's good you're here to educate me. Wear something warm tomorrow. I have plans." Should I be worried? Probably, but I promise you'll like it. Sophia found herself grinning at her phone like a teenager. Around 5, Emma called. "Tell me everything," her sister demanded. "And I mean everything. He's gorgeous. He's clearly loaded. He looks at you like you hung the moon, and you never said a word. How long have you been hiding him?" 3 months, Sophia said, sticking to the story, feeling only slightly guilty about the lie. "We wanted to keep it private." Emma made a disbelieving sound. "Sophia, I'm your sister. I know when you're lying. And okay, maybe you have been seeing him for 3 months, but something about last night felt, I don't know, new. Like you were both surprised by how well it was going." Sophia's chest tightened. Emma had always been perceptive. "It's complicated," she said finally. She paused, searching for words. "He's not what I expected." "Meaning what?" "Meaning I wasn't looking for anyone. I was happy alone." And then he appeared and everything shifted. Emma was quiet for a moment. "Do you trust him?" Sophia thought about Dante's hands on her face, his voice when he'd asked to kiss her for real, the vulnerability she'd glimpsed beneath his confidence. "I think so," she said. "I know that's not reassuring, but I barely know him, Em. Last night was only our 4th date." Lie. "And yet you brought him to meet the family." Sophia couldn't explain that she'd met him 5 minutes before walking into that restaurant, that everything Emma had witnessed had started as pure fiction, that the connection she'd felt might have been one-sided, a product of desperation and good acting. So she said the only truth she knew. "I like him. Really like him. More than I've liked anyone in a long time. Maybe ever." "Then give it a chance," Emma said softly. "You deserve someone who looks at you the way he did. Like you're the answer to a question he's been asking his whole life." Those words stayed with Sophia through the evening, through the restless night, through the hours of Christmas Eve morning. She changed her outfit 3 times before Dante was supposed to arrive, finally settling on dark jeans, a cream-colored sweater, and the warmest coat she owned. At 6:50, her doorbell rang. Sophia's heart jumped. She checked herself one more time in the mirror, took a deep breath, and opened the door. Dante stood there, holding a single white rose, and Sophia's breath caught. In the soft glow of her porch light, with snowflakes dusting his dark coat, and that slight smile playing at his lips, he looked like something out of a dream. "Hi," he said, and his voice was warm, intimate, like they'd known each other for years instead of one night. "Hi," Sophia managed. "You're early." I was impatient. He held out the rose. "For you." Sophia took it, her fingers brushing his. "It's beautiful. Not as beautiful as you, but it's a start." She felt her cheeks warm. "Come in. I just need to grab my purse." Dante stepped into her small apartment, and Sophia watched him take in her space. The exposed brick walls covered in her own artwork and pieces she'd collected, the overflowing bookshelves, the designed sketches scattered across her dining table, the string lights giving everything a warm glow. "I like it," Dante said, genuine appreciation in his voice. "It feels like you. Creative, warm, carefully curated, but lived in." "How can you tell all that from 30 seconds? Sophia asked, amused. "I'm observant." It's part of my job. Which is? Sophia asked, realizing she still knew almost nothing about what he actually did. Dante's expression shifted, just slightly. Complicated. But I'll explain over dinner. Promise. Promise. The drive took 40 minutes, heading out of the city into the hills, where the snow lay thick and pristine. Dante drove a sleek black car that probably cost more than Sophia made in a year, and he drove it with the same quiet confidence he seemed to bring to everything. They talked easily, about art and music, about her work and his collection, about traveling and family. But Sophia noticed that whenever she asked about his business, Dante deflected smoothly, changing the subject so skillfully she barely realized it was happening. Finally, they pulled up to a restaurant Sophia had only read about, an exclusive place that supposedly required reservations months in advance. The building was small, intimate, with warm light glowing through frosted windows and smoke curling from a stone chimney. "How did you get a reservation here on Christmas Eve?" Sophia asked, as Dante helped her out of the car, his hand warm and steady on hers. "I know the owner," Dante said simply. They were seated at a private table near a fireplace, the only other diners far enough away to give them complete privacy. A waiter appeared immediately with wine, expensive wine, and menus that had no prices. "This is too much," Sophia said quietly, overwhelmed. "Nothing is too much for you," Dante replied, and the way he said it made Sophia believe he meant it. They ordered, and then Dante leaned back, studying her with those dark, intense eyes. "Tell me something real," he said. "Something you don't tell most people." Sophia considered. "When I was younger, I wanted to be a painter, a real artist. I went to art school with all these dreams about galleries and exhibitions and making a difference. And then I graduated and realized that dreams don't pay rent. So I became a graphic designer. It's creative, it pays the bills. But sometimes I look at what I'm making and wonder if I gave up too easily." Dante was quiet for a moment. "Do you still paint?" "Sometimes. Late at night when I can't sleep. Nothing serious. Nothing I'd ever show anyone." "Why not?" "Because," Sophia paused, searching for honesty. "What if I'm not good enough? What if I spent all those years dreaming about something I don't actually have the talent for?" Dante reached across the table, taking her hand. "Fear of failure is just fear. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It means you care enough to be afraid. Those paintings you have in your apartment, did you do those?" "Some of them." "They're extraordinary," Dante said firmly. "You have talent, Sophia. Real talent. Maybe it's time to stop hiding it." The conviction in his voice made something crack open in Sophia's chest. "Your turn," she said, needing to shift the focus. "Tell me something real." Dante's expression darkened slightly. "I'm not good at real. My whole life is built on appearances, on playing roles, on showing people what they need to see. Last night with your family was easy because I'm used to pretending." "That's not an answer," Sophia said gently. Dante looked at her for a long moment, and Sophia saw him make a decision. "My father died 3 years ago. Everyone said it was a heart attack, but it wasn't. He was killed. Murdered by people in his own organization because they thought he was getting weak, making bad decisions. And his voice roughened, I inherited everything he built. All the loyalty, all the responsibility, all the weight of a legacy I never asked for." Sophia's heart clenched. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. He wasn't a good man, Sophia. He was powerful, feared, respected in certain circles. But he wasn't good. And now, I'm trying to figure out how to honor his memory without becoming him, how to protect what matters without losing myself in the process." "What do you mean by protect?" Sophia asked, something cold settling in her stomach. Dante met her eyes. "This is the part where I should lie, where I should keep deflecting, Keep playing the role of the mysterious but harmless businessman. But you asked for real, and you deserve real. So I'm going to tell you the truth, and then you can decide if you want to stay. Sophia's pulse quickened. Okay. My family, Dante said carefully, isn't in real estate. Not really. We're involved in businesses that exist in the spaces between legal and illegal. Import-export that isn't always legitimate. Protection services that some might call extortion. Conflict resolution that sometimes requires violence. He paused. We're what people politely call organized crime, Sophia. And I'm the head of it. The words hung in the air between them, heavy and irrevocable. Sophia stared at Dante, her mind racing, trying to reconcile the man who'd held her so tenderly last night, who'd brought her a rose and complimented her art, with what he was telling her now. You're telling me you're in the Mafia, Sophia said slowly. Dante's expression didn't change. That's the common term, yes, though we prefer to think of it as a family business with unconventional methods. Sophia pulled her hand back, and she saw something flicker in Dante's eyes. Hurt, maybe, quickly masked. Is that why my father recognized your name? Yes. The Caruso family has a reputation. We're known for being ruthless, efficient, and loyal to our own. We control most of the import operations in this city, along with several legitimate businesses that provide cover. Your father probably heard about us through his contracting work. We owned several construction companies. And last night, Sophia said, her voice shaking slightly, when you were playing my boyfriend, touching me, kissing me, was that just another role? Was I just entertainment? Dante's jaw clenched. No, that was real. All of it. That's why I'm telling you this now instead of letting you find out later. I want honesty between us, even if it costs me everything. How can I trust anything you say? Sophia asked. You just admitted your whole life is built on lies. I said my life is built on appearances, Dante corrected. There's a difference. I don't lie to the people I care about, Sophia. And I care about you. You don't even know me. I know you're brave enough to approach a stranger when you're desperate. I know you're loyal enough to endure uncomfortable family dinners to support your sister. I know you're talented enough to create beautiful things, but scared enough to hide them. I know when you laugh, it's genuine. When you're nervous, you bite your bottom lip. When I kiss you, you make this small sound in the back of your throat that drives me insane. His voice had dropped, become rougher. I know more than you think. Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. She should leave, should walk out right now, should never look back. But something kept her seated, kept her listening. The waiter appeared with their first course, the interruption giving Sophia time to think. After he left, Dante spoke again, quieter now. I understand if you want to go. I'll drive you home, or I'll call you a car if you don't want to be near me. I'll make sure you're safe, and I'll never contact you again. You'll be completely protected. No one in my world will ever touch you or threaten you. You have my word. What does your word mean? Sophia asked. In your world? Everything, Dante said simply. It's the only currency that matters. Loyalty, honor, keeping your promises. Those are the codes we live by, even when you break the law, especially then. When the law doesn't protect you, you create your own rules. My family has survived for 3 generations by keeping our word, by protecting our own, by never betraying a trust. Sophia looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who'd made her family believe in a relationship that didn't exist, who'd kissed her like she mattered, who was now offering her a choice instead of manipulating her. Why did you say yes last night? She asked, when I asked you to be my fake boyfriend. Why did you agree? Dante was quiet for a long moment. Because I'm tired of being alone. I'm surrounded by people constantly, by soldiers and associates, and hangers-on, but I'm alone. I have responsibilities and obligations and a legacy I never wanted, but I don't have anyone who sees me as just Dante, just a man. And then you appeared, desperate and beautiful and completely unaware of who I was, asking for help. And for one night, I got to be normal. Got to be someone's boyfriend instead of someone's boss. Got to hold someone without calculating the political implications. Sophia's chest ached. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Dante smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Welcome to my world. They sat in silence for a moment. Sophia's mind was spinning, trying to process everything. Finally, she spoke. If I stay for dinner, if I give this a chance, I need you to promise me something. Anything. No lies. Ever. Even if the truth is ugly. Even if you think it'll hurt me. No lies. I can handle reality, Dante. I can't handle deception. Dante held her gaze. I promise. No lies. And second, Sophia continued, if I'm in danger because of you, because of your world, you tell me immediately. I'm not a child. I'm not a pawn. I'm a partner, or I'm nothing. Understood? Understood. And third, Sophia said, her voice softer now, you have to let me decide for myself. Don't make choices for me, because you think you're protecting me. Don't push me away because you think I can't handle your life. Give me the information and let me choose. That's the hardest one, Dante admitted. My instinct is to protect you from everything, including myself. I know, but I'm asking you to trust me enough to let me make my own mistakes. Can you do that? Dante reached across the table, his hand open, waiting. She could walk away. Should walk away. This was insane. He was a criminal. Dangerous. The kind of man her parents had warned her about. The kind of man sensible women avoided. But he was also honest. Vulnerable. Looking at her like she was the answer to a prayer he'd stopped believing in. And Sophia had spent her whole life being sensible, being careful, being safe. Where had that gotten her? Alone at family dinners, hiding her real art, pretending to be smaller than she was, so she wouldn't make anyone uncomfortable. Maybe it was time to take a risk. Maybe it was time to choose something terrifying and real over something safe and empty. Sophia placed her hand in Dante's. His fingers closed around hers, warm and sure, and she saw his whole body relax. Okay, she said. No lies. No lies, Dante confirmed. The rest of dinner was different. Not awkward, but honest, in a way that felt almost sacred. Dante told her about his world with careful detail, explaining the structure of his organization, the territories they controlled, the rules they lived by. He didn't glorify it or make excuses. He simply presented the reality, letting Sophia see the complexity of a life built between shadows and light. We're not the villains you see in movies, Dante said, his thumb tracing patterns on the back of her hand. We're not good people, but we're not monsters either. We protect our neighborhoods, take care of families that have been loyal to us for generations, provide services that the legal system can't or won't. But we also hurt people. We eliminate threats. We use violence when necessary. I won't pretend otherwise. Have you? Sophia paused, struggling with the question. Have you killed anyone? Dante's expression went very still. That's a complicated question. Have I personally pulled the trigger or held the knife? No. Have I given orders that resulted in deaths? Yes. Does that distinction matter to you? Sophia considered. I don't know. Maybe. It tells me you're not a sociopath who enjoys violence. It tells me you carry the weight of those decisions. I do, Dante said quietly. Every single one. I see their faces sometimes when I can't sleep. I tell myself it was necessary, that they were threats to my family, that I had no choice. But I still see them. That's good, Sophia said. If you didn't, I'd be walking out right now." They moved on to lighter topics then, but the foundation had shifted. There was an understanding between them now, a mutual vulnerability that made every word feel more significant. After dinner, Dante drove them to an overlook just outside the city. The snow had stopped, leaving everything crystalline and perfect under a clear sky full of stars. They sat in the car with the heat running, looking out at the city lights spread below them like fallen constellations. "My mother used to bring me here," Dante said softly. "When my father would have his rages, when the house felt too small and too dangerous, she'd pack me and my brothers in the car and drive us here. She'd tell us to look at how big the world was, how many lights, how many people living their lives. She'd say we didn't have to be what our father was, that we could choose. Did you believe her? I wanted to. But when she left after he died, when she chose her freedom over staying with her sons, I realized she'd been lying. Not about the choice, but about thinking we could actually make it. We're Carusos. That choice was made for us before we were born." Sophia turned to look at him, this powerful, dangerous man who suddenly seemed very young. "You're not your father. You said it yourself. You're trying to be different." "Trying and succeeding are different things, Sophia. I still run the same organization. I still make the same brutal choices. I just feel guilty about it, which probably makes me weak in my world." "It makes you human," Sophia said firmly. "It makes you someone worth knowing." Dante looked at her, and in the dim light, Sophia saw everything he was feeling: the longing, the fear, the desperate hope that maybe she wouldn't run. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, his voice rough. "Yes," Sophia whispered. This kiss was different from the ones before. It was slower, deeper, searching. Dante's hand cupped her face like she was something precious, something that might break. Sophia felt herself melting into him, into the heat and safety of his touch. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "I want you to understand something," he said quietly. "If we do this, if we make this real, I will protect you with everything I have. No one will touch you. No one will threaten you. You will be mine. And in my world, that means something. It means you're untouchable." "That sounds possessive," Sophia said, but her voice was breathless. "I am possessive. I don't share. I don't let go easily. If you're mine, Sophia, you're mine completely. Most women find that suffocating. I'm not most women." "No," Dante agreed, his thumb brushing her jaw. "You're not." They stayed there for a long time, wrapped in each other, talking and kissing, and simply existing together. Sophia told him about her dreams of being an artist, about the gallery show she'd always imagined, about the fear that kept her from trying. Dante told her about his brothers, about the pressure of leadership, about the loneliness of power. And slowly, in that car overlooking the city, something fragile and precious took root between them, something that felt like possibility. It was past midnight when Dante finally drove Sophia home. At her door, he pulled her close, his hands framing her face. "Tomorrow's Christmas," he said. "Spend it with me." "I can't," Sophia said regretfully. "I promised my family." Dante looked disappointed but unsurprised. "Of course. Family comes first." "But the day after?" "We have Emma's wedding prep." Sophia saw his expression and felt something twist in her chest. She reached up, touching his face. "Come with me." "To Christmas with your family?" "To everything. If we're doing this, if we're making this real, then you should be there. You should meet them properly, as my actual boyfriend, not my fake one." Dante's eyes searched hers. "Are you sure? They'll have questions, especially your father. Let them ask. I'll answer. We'll figure it out together." Dante kissed her then, soft and sweet, and full of something that felt dangerously close to love. Okay, he murmured against her lips. Together. Sophia went inside feeling like she was floating, like the ground beneath her feet had shifted into something new and terrifying and exhilarating. She didn't know what she'd just agreed to, didn't know how this would work, didn't know if she was making the best decision of her life or the worst mistake. But for the first time in longer than she could remember, Sophia felt fully alive. Christmas morning came with fresh snow, and Sophia's phone ringing at 8 a.m. It was her mother, voice bright with forced cheer, reminding her to arrive early to help with dinner preparations. Sophia agreed, then immediately texted Dante. Dinner is at 4. Meet me there at 3:30. And wear something that says respectable boyfriend, not mafia boss. His response came quickly. Is there a difference? Dante. Fine. Respectable boyfriend it is. Though I maintain my usual wardrobe says both. Sophia found herself smiling despite her nerves. She spent the morning wrapping last-minute gifts and trying not to overthink what she was doing. Bringing Dante to her family's Christmas dinner, knowing what she now knew about him, felt both thrilling and terrifying. Her father would definitely recognize the name. Her mother would have questions. Emma would see right through any pretense. But Sophia had promised honesty, and that meant no more hiding. When she arrived at her parents' house, the warmth and noise of family immediately enveloped her. Her mother was in the kitchen conducting a symphony of cooking. Her father was arguing with Emma about proper tree light arrangement, and the whole scene felt so normal, so safe, that Sophia's chest tightened with guilt. She was bringing danger into this space. Not immediate danger, maybe, but the potential for it. Was that fair to them? You're overthinking, Emma said, appearing at her elbow with 2 glasses of wine. I can see it on your face. I'm bringing my mafia boyfriend to Christmas dinner, Sophia said quietly. What's there to overthink? Emma choked on her wine. You're what? Sophia quickly pulled her sister into the study, closing the door. She told Emma everything. The fake date request, Dante's revelation, her decision to give it a chance. Emma listened with increasingly wide eyes. Sophia, Emma said finally, this is insane. You know that, right? This is certifiably insane. I know. He could be dangerous. He is dangerous. He admitted that. But he's also honest and kind, and he makes me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years. That doesn't make it safe, Emma insisted. That makes it intoxicating, which is how people make terrible decisions. Maybe, Sophia admitted. But it's my terrible decision to make. Emma studied her sister's face. You're really doing this. You're really dating a mafia boss. I'm really trying to. The doorbell rang, and Sophia's heart jumped. That's him. Emma grabbed her arm. Does Dad know? Not yet. Sophia, he's going to lose his mind. Then it's good we're doing this on Christmas when he can't yell. Sophia walked to the front door before she could second-guess herself. Through the frosted glass, she could see Dante's silhouette, tall and solid. She opened the door, and her breath caught. He'd followed her instructions. Dark slacks, a charcoal sweater that highlighted his shoulders, a wool coat that looked expensive, but not ostentatious. His hair was slightly mussed from the wind, and he held a bottle of wine that probably cost more than her rent. But it was his expression that made Sophia's knees weak, the mixture of nervousness and determination, the vulnerability in his eyes that said he knew this was important, knew he was walking into her world, just as she'd walked into his. Hi, Sophia said softly. Hi, Dante replied. His free hand came up to cup her face, and he kissed her, brief but tender. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Sophia heard her mother's voice from the kitchen, asking who was at the door. She took Dante's hand, squeezed it once for courage, and led him inside. Her father was in the living room, and the moment he saw Dante, his entire body went rigid. Mr. Reyes, Dante said, his voice respectful but not submissive. "Thank you for allowing me into your home." Her father's eyes were hard. "Caruso." Sophia felt Dante's hand tighten on hers. "Yes, sir. I'd like to speak with you," her father said. "Alone." "Roberto," her mother said, appearing from the kitchen with Emma right behind her. "It's Christmas. Whatever this is can wait until after dinner." "No," Dante said quietly. "It can't. If Mr. Reyes has concerns, he has every right to voice them. I'd have concerns if my daughter brought someone like me home." Sophia wanted to protest, but Dante's thumb brushed her hand in a silent request for trust. Her father nodded toward the study. They disappeared inside, and Sophia paced the living room while her mother and Emma peppered her with questions she barely heard. Inside the study, Dante faced Roberto Reyes across a heavy oak desk. The older man's expression was a mixture of anger, fear, and protective fury. "My daughter tells me you're dating," Roberto said, his voice tight. "She tells me you're serious. She tells me I should give you a chance. But I know who you are, Caruso. I know what your family does. I know the kind of man your father was." "I'm not my father," Dante said. "So everyone keeps saying. But you run his organization. You make his decisions. You live his life." "I run an organization I inherited," Dante corrected. "I make decisions that protect my people. And I'm trying very hard not to live his life, trying to be something better." "That's a nice story." "My daughter's not a story. She's a person who deserves safety, stability, a normal life. You can't give her that." "You're right," Dante said, his voice raw. "I can't give her normal. I can't promise there won't be danger. I can't pretend my world is safe or simple or anything a father would want for his daughter." Roberto's expression didn't soften. "Then why are you here? Why pursue her when you know she deserves better?" "Because she chose me," Dante said simply. "After I told her everything, after I gave her every reason to walk away, she chose me. And I'm selfish enough, desperate enough, to accept that choice, to fight for it. Even though it puts her at risk, I will protect her with my life," Dante said, and there was steel in his voice now. "No one will touch her. No one will threaten her. She will be safer with me than without me, because anyone who even thinks about hurting her will face consequences they can't imagine." "That's supposed to reassure me?" Roberto asked. "Knowing my daughter is with someone who threatens people?" "It's supposed to be honest," Dante said. "I won't lie to you, sir. I won't pretend to be something I'm not. I'm involved in things you'd rather not know about. I make decisions that keep me up at night. I have enemies, and responsibilities, and a past I can't escape. But I also know that Sophia is the best thing that's happened to me in years. She makes me want to be better, makes me believe I can be better, and I love her enough to walk away if that's what's truly best for her." Roberto studied him for a long moment. "You love her? You've known her for 2 days. Sometimes that's all it takes," Dante said quietly, "to recognize someone who sees you clearly and chooses you anyway, to meet someone who makes the loneliness bearable. I knew the moment she approached me outside that restaurant that she was different, that she could be everything." Roberto closed his eyes, and suddenly he looked much older. "My wife thinks I'm overprotective. My daughters think I worry too much. But I've seen what men like you are capable of, Caruso. I've worked on buildings your family owns. I've heard the stories. I've seen the aftermath of your business. It's not a world I want anywhere near my family. I understand. But I'm already here," Dante said. "Sophia already made her choice. You can forbid it, can tell her she's making a mistake, can cut her off until she leaves me. Or you can trust that you raised a daughter smart enough to know what she wants and strong enough to handle the consequences. And you can trust that I meant what I said. I will protect her. Always." Even from yourself? Roberto asked sharply. Especially from myself. The silence stretched between them. Finally, Roberto stood and walked to the window, looking out at the snow-covered yard. My father used to say that love makes fools of wise men, he said quietly. I thought I understood what he meant when I married Maria. But now, watching my daughters grow up, watching them make their own choices, I realize it's worse than that. Love makes cowards of brave men, makes us afraid of every shadow, every risk, every possibility of loss. He turned to face Dante. I'm terrified right now. Terrified that something will happen to my daughter because of your world. Terrified that I'll lose her one way or another, to violence, or to the kind of life I can't protect her from. But I'm more terrified of pushing her away, of being the reason she stops talking to me, of choosing fear over trust. So Dante, I'm going to give you a chance. One chance. But if you hurt her, if you put her in danger, if I even suspect she's not safe, there is no organization powerful enough to protect you from a father's rage. Understood? Understood, Dante said. And sir, for what it's worth, I'm terrified too. Good, Roberto said. That means you understand what you have to lose. They returned to the living room where Sophia was wearing a path in the carpet. She looked up as they emerged, her eyes searching Dante's face for clues. Everything okay? She asked. Your father and I have an understanding, Dante said, moving to her side. His arm went around her waist, and Sophia relaxed into him. Her mother insisted they all sit down for dinner immediately, perhaps sensing that any delay might reignite tensions. The meal was awkward at first, stilted conversation punctuated by long silences. But gradually, perhaps due to the wine or the magic of Christmas or simple exhaustion, things began to thaw. Emma asked Dante about his art collection, and his genuine enthusiasm sparked a conversation about museums and galleries. Her mother inquired about his family, and Dante spoke carefully but honestly about his brothers, his mother in Italy, the complicated legacy of his father. And through it all, Sophia watched him navigate her family with the same skill he'd shown that first night. But this time, there was no pretense. This time, when he touched her hand or smiled at her across the table, it was real. After dinner, while her mother and Emma cleared dishes over Sophia's protests that she should help, Sophia and Dante stepped outside onto the back porch. The night was cold and clear, stars brilliant overhead. Thank you, Sophia said, leaning into Dante's warmth. For what? For being honest with my father, for not making promises you can't keep, for being here. Dante wrapped his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on top of her head. Your father threatened me. Sophia laughed. Good. What did you say? That I understood. That he's right to be protective. That I'm terrified too. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Sophia turned in his arms to face him. I meant what I said the other night. About choosing this. About choosing you. Even knowing the risks. Especially knowing the risks. I'm tired of being safe, Dante. Tired of playing it small. Tired of hiding who I am and what I want. Because it might make someone uncomfortable. You make me brave. Dante's expression softened. You make me human. You make me remember there's more to life than power and territory and legacy. You make me want mornings and futures and all the ordinary, beautiful things I convinced myself I couldn't have. He kissed her then, slow and deep and full of promise. When they broke apart, Sophia was breathless. Stay, she whispered. Tonight. Stay with me. Are you sure? I'm sure. I'm terrified and probably making a dozen mistakes, but I'm sure about this. About you. Dante's hands framed her face, his thumbs brushing her cheeks. Then yes. Yes. I'll stay. They went back inside to say their goodbyes. Her mother hugged Dante, whispering something in his ear that made him nod seriously. Her father shook his hand with a grip that was probably meant to be intimidating, but came across as resigned. Emma pulled Sophia aside one last time. "You're really doing this," she said. "I'm really doing this. Then be careful. Be smart. And remember, if he hurts you, I know where to hide a body." Sophia laughed. "That's very sisterly of you. That's what family is for." In the car driving back to Sophia's apartment, Dante's hand rested on her knee, warm and steady. "What did my mother whisper to you?" Sophia asked. "She said that you seem like a good man, who's trying very hard to be better," Dante replied, "and that if I break your heart, she'll pray for my soul, because God will be the only one who can help me." Sophia smiled. "That sounds like her." They reached her apartment, and suddenly the reality of what was about to happen hit Sophia. She'd invited him to stay. They both knew what that meant. Inside, Sophia turned on the lights and immediately started fussing with things that didn't need fussing with, straightening pillows, adjusting artwork, anything to calm her nerves. "Sophia," Dante said softly, catching her hand. "Look at me." She did, and found him watching her with patient understanding. "We don't have to do anything you're not ready for. I meant what I said. I'm here because you asked me to be, not because I expect anything." "I know," Sophia said. "I'm just nervous." "I haven't," she paused. "It's been a while." "And you're—" She gestured vaguely at all of him. "You're a lot." Dante's lips curved into a slight smile. "Is that a complaint?" "No. Maybe. I don't know." Sophia laughed, slightly hysterical. "I'm not good at this." "Good at what?" "Being spontaneous, being brave, being with someone like you, someone like me, someone confident, someone who knows what they want, someone who probably has a lot more experience than I do." Dante stepped closer, his hand settling on her waist. "Sophia, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to believe me. I have no idea what I'm doing either. You seem pretty confident. That's practice. That's armor. That's what I show the world, because showing fear or uncertainty would be seen as weakness. But with you," his voice dropped, "I don't want armor. I don't want pretense. I just want to be here, with you, figuring this out together." He leaned down, pressing his forehead to hers. "And for the record, you are the bravest person I know. You looked at everything I am, everything I could bring into your life, and you chose it anyway. That takes more courage than anything I've ever done." Sophia's hands came up to rest on his chest, feeling his heartbeat under her palms. "It's racing," she said, surprised. "Always does around you." They stood like that for a long moment, just breathing together, letting the tension shift from nervous to something warmer, something that felt like anticipation. Then Dante kissed her, soft at first, questioning. Sophia answered by pressing closer, her hand sliding up to his shoulders, into his hair. The kiss deepened, became more urgent. Dante's hands moved to her face, tilting her head to better access, and Sophia heard herself make a small sound that seemed to undo something in him. He pulled back slightly, his breathing ragged. "Bedroom?" he asked. "Bedroom," Sophia confirmed. She led him down the short hallway, hyper-aware of his presence behind her, of the heat between them, of what was about to happen. Inside her room, she turned to find him watching her with such intensity that her breath caught. "I need to tell you something," Sophia said, nerves suddenly returning. "Okay." "I'm not," she struggled for words. I'm not inexperienced exactly, but I haven't been with anyone in over 2 years. And when I was, it wasn't." She paused. "It wasn't like this." "Like what?" "Like something that matters." Dante crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling her against him. "Sophia, It matters to me too. More than you know. This isn't casual for me. You're not casual for me. I know we've only known each other for days, but I already know I don't want to lose this. Don't want to lose you. Then don't, Sophia whispered. His kiss this time was different, slower, more deliberate. His hands moved to the hem of her sweater, pausing. Okay? Yes. He pulled the sweater over her head, and Sophia fought the urge to cover herself. Instead, she watched his face, saw his eyes darken as he took her in, saw something like reverence in his expression. Beautiful, he murmured. Your turn, Sophia said, surprised by her own boldness. Dante smiled and pulled off his own sweater, revealing a body that made Sophia's mouth go dry. Broad shoulders, defined muscles, and scattered across his torso. Scars. Some small, some larger. Evidence of a life lived dangerously. Sophia reached out, her fingers tracing one particularly long scar along his ribs. Knife, Dante said quietly. 3 years ago. Territory dispute. It looks like it was bad. It was. But I survived. Lots of people in my world don't. Sophia looked up at him, seeing the weight of that truth in his eyes. I'm sorry. Don't be. They're just reminders of where I've been, who I was. They don't define who I'm trying to become. She kissed the scar, feeling him inhale sharply, then kissed another, and another, mapping his past with her lips until Dante's control visibly snapped. He lifted her easily, and Sophia wrapped her legs around his waist as he carried her to the bed. They fell into the sheets together, a tangle of limbs and heat and searching hands. Dante took his time, learning what made Sophia gasp, what made her arch into his touch, what made her whisper his name like a prayer. And Sophia discovered that beneath his confidence was tenderness, beneath his power was patience. Beneath his dangerous exterior was a man who touched her like she was precious. Are you sure? Dante asked, poised above her, giving her one last chance to change her mind. I'm sure, Sophia said, pulling him down to her. I'm sure about you. What followed was slow, intense, overwhelming. Dante was careful with her, attentive to every response, every hesitation. He whispered to her in Italian, words she didn't understand, but that sounded like promises, like devotion, like something that might be love. And when Sophia finally fell apart in his arms, Dante followed, her name on his lips, his face buried in her neck. Afterward, they lay tangled together, Sophia's head on Dante's chest, his hand stroking her hair. That was, Sophia started, then stopped, unable to find words. Yeah, Dante agreed, his voice rough. Yeah. They drifted into comfortable silence, the kind that only comes when two people feel completely safe with each other. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and silent, covering the world in white. And inside Sophia's small apartment, in her warm bed, two people who should never have found each other held on tight, choosing each other despite every reason not to. Sophia woke to winter sunlight streaming through her bedroom window and the unfamiliar weight of an arm around her waist. For a moment, she was disoriented. Then memory flooded back. Christmas dinner, her father's acceptance, Dante staying, everything that had happened after. She turned carefully in Dante's arms to find him already awake, watching her with soft eyes. Hi, she whispered. Hi, he replied, his voice rough with sleep. His hand came up to brush hair from her face. Any regrets? None, Sophia said immediately. You? Never. They lay there for a while, just existing together in the quiet morning light. Finally, Dante spoke. I have to tell you something. That sounds ominous. It's not bad, exactly. Just complicated. Sophia propped herself up on one elbow. Tell me. My brothers want to meet you. Dante said it quickly, like ripping off a bandage. They know I brought someone to a family dinner, know I'm serious about you. In my world, that means introductions. Formal ones. Sophia's stomach flipped. When? Next week. Before your sister's wedding. They want to make sure you're protected during the event, that everyone knows you're under our family's protection. That sounds very official. It is, Dante admitted. In my world, when the head of the family claims someone, it's a statement. It means you're untouchable. It also means you're choosing this life, not just me. The weight of his words settled over her. This wasn't just about dating someone from a dangerous world. This was about becoming part of that world, accepting its rules, its protection, its consequences. I'm scared, Sophia said honestly. Good. You should be. But know this. Once you meet my brothers, once they accept you, you'll have the full weight of the Caruso family behind you. No one will dare threaten you. You'll be as safe as it's possible to be in my world. And if I say no, if I'm not ready, then we slow down. We keep this private. We figure out another way. But Sophia, his voice grew serious. Eventually you'll have to decide. My life doesn't allow for casual. It doesn't allow for half measures. Either you're in or you're out. And I need to know which before someone else figures out you matter to me and tries to use you against me. The honesty was stark, frightening, real. Sophia took a breath. Okay, I'll say no. Okay, I'll meet your brothers. After Emma's wedding, I won't let this overshadow her day. Dante's relief was visible. Thank you for understanding, for giving this a chance, for not running. I'm still terrified, Sophia admitted. So am I, Dante said. Every day. But I'm more terrified of losing you. They spent the rest of the morning in bed, talking about everything and nothing, learning each other's stories. Dante told her about growing up in his father's shadow, about the violence he'd witnessed, about the burden of leadership. Sophia told him about her dreams, her fears, her complicated relationship with success. Around noon, Dante's phone rang. He checked it, frowned. I have to go, he said reluctantly. Business? Always. But I'll be back tonight if you want. I want. He kissed her thoroughly before leaving, and Sophia watched from her window as he got into his car, watched Marco glance up at her window and nod once in acknowledgement. Her phone buzzed immediately. Emma. So? Tell me everything. Sophia smiled and called her sister, spending the next hour detailing the night, leaving out the most intimate parts, but sharing enough that Emma's squeals could probably be heard down the block. He's really in the Mafia, Emma said for the 5th time. Like actually. Actually, Sophia confirmed. And you're okay with that. I don't know if okay is the right word. But I'm choosing it. That's brave or crazy, Em said. Maybe both. Definitely both. The next few days passed in a blur. Dante came by every evening, bringing dinner, helping Sophia work on wedding preparations, slowly integrating himself into her life. They were careful in public, keeping their relationship quiet. But in private, in Sophia's apartment, they built something real. Sophia painted for the first time in months, with Dante watching from her couch, making comments that were surprisingly insightful. He brought over some of his collection, and they spent an entire evening discussing art and beauty and meaning. And slowly, Sophia began to understand his world. Not just the violence and danger, but the loyalty, the honor, the complex web of relationships and obligations that held everything together. It wasn't good, wasn't clean, but it wasn't entirely evil either. It was gray, complicated, human. The night before Emma's wedding, Sophia lay in Dante's arms, anxiety churning in her stomach. What if something goes wrong tomorrow, she asked. What if your world crashes into mine during Emma's big day? It won't, Dante said firmly. I've already made arrangements. Marco and 2 others will be there, blending in as guests. They'll watch for threats, handle any issues quietly. Your sister's wedding will be perfect. You can promise that? I can promise I'll do everything in my power to make sure it is. Sophia turned to look at him. You've changed my life, you know, in 3 days. You've made me braver, made me want things I thought I couldn't have, made me believe in possibility. Dante's hand cupped her face. You've changed mine, too. Given me hope. Given me a reason to be better than my father. Given me a future that looks like something worth fighting for. They made love slowly that night, tender and intense, sealing promises neither had quite spoken aloud yet. And the next morning, Sophia woke alone, with a note on her pillow. Had to handle something. We'll see you at the church. You're going to be the most beautiful maid of honor anyone's ever seen. Proud to be yours. Always. De Emma's wedding was perfect. The ceremony was beautiful. Marcus was sobbing with joy, and Sophia stood beside her sister, feeling grateful and terrified and impossibly happy. And in the back of the church, she saw him. Dante in a dark suit, watching her with such intensity that she almost forgot where she was. After the ceremony, as everyone moved to the reception, Dante pulled her aside. You were right, he murmured, his lips close to her ear. What about? You're the most beautiful maid of honor I've ever seen. Sophia laughed. I'm the only maid of honor you've ever seen at a wedding you didn't have to attend for business. Still counts. At the reception, Dante charmed her family again, danced with her mother, talked construction with her father, and when he took Sophia in his arms for a slow dance, she felt complete. This is real, isn't it? She whispered. This isn't going away. This is real, Dante confirmed. This isn't going away. I'm yours, Sophia, for as long as you'll have me. Forever then, Sophia said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. Forever. They danced in the soft light, surrounded by joy and family and love. 2 people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way possible, who'd chosen each other despite every obstacle, who'd decided that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust in something terrifying and beautiful and real. And maybe that's what love always is, Sophia thought, as Dante held her close. The courage to say yes to something that could destroy you or save you, and the faith to believe it will be the latter. She'd asked a stranger to be her fake date at Christmas. He'd turned out to be the city's most feared mafia boss, and somehow, impossibly, he'd also turned out to be exactly what she needed, not despite the danger, not despite the complications, but including all of it. He was hers. She was his. And that was enough.